Do you know, as soon as I heard the plan to fly migrants to Rwanda, I predicted it would be met with a raft of right-on protesters, immigration lawyers and Whitehall wonks fighting to prevent a single plane from taking off. What made for tough headlines was always destined to fall apart at the seams, while even a glimmer of success would likely only account for a tiny handful of the tens of thousands illegally entering the country. And yet, it enables the government to cleverly deflect responsibility for its failure. Rather than come up with a plan that could work, they made something so patently ludicrous its failure was almost guaranteed. Well, today, the Home Office has cancelled the removal of 5 people now who had asked the High Court to prevent their deportation to Rwanda, while the case of migrants and charities seeking to stop the first deportation to Rwanda, set to leave on Tuesday, is taking place. I hate to say I told you so. Well, let's talk to GBNews national reporter Paul Hawkins, who's outside the Royal Courts of Justice. Paul, I mean, it seems very predictable, doesn't it? But what's going on in court today is actually a plan to stop the entire policy, isn't it? Not just a few people here and there, but to sort of pull the rug out from the entire thing.
Yeah, well, there's 2 things happening today. This is an application for, firstly, a judicial review, which, if successful, could take 6 to 8 weeks at least, where they look at the whole policy in the round. But the other request is for an injunction against that flight taking off on Tuesday. So stop the flight on Tuesday, and then let's sit down and have a wider judicial review into this whole policy, which, as you say, very controversial. And immediately when it was published, a lot of people were saying, is this going to comply with international law? Look, right now, lawyers for the government are putting their case forward for the policy. Essentially, the thrust of it is that this is in the public interest and this is designed to stop people smugglers. That's the case that the government's lawyers have been laying out today. We've heard a lot of talk from campaigners or from lawyers representing human rights groups, a civil service union and some of the asylum seekers themselves. Some really frankly damning evidence from the UNHCR, the UN's refugee agency. Their lawyer, Laura Dubinsky, had told the court that the agency is concerned about the risk of serious, irreparable harm caused to refugees sent to Rwanda. It in no way endorses the UK-Rwandan arrangement. And that the agency had serious concerns about Rwandan capacity, that there is only one UN sanctioned human rights barrister in Rwanda, that they have concerns about discrimination against LGBTQ asylum seekers or economic migrants, lack of legal representation, interpreters, difficulties in appealing. She also said that they have written the UN to the government many times outlining these concerns, that they do not back or support this plan, and yet Priti Patel has herself said that, well, actually the UN and the UNHCR have given this plan the green light, and they're saying in court, no, we haven't. So some really damning evidence from the UNHCR, and that matters because the UNHCR has constitutional responsibility for the Refugee Convention. That's the very part of international law which these campaigners, these lawyers are saying that's the part of the law, the international law, that the government is breaking. So what the UNHCR have had to say today really matters. They're saying that this policy of sending to Rwanda, it's unsafe, it's unfair, it's unlawful. The government's sticking to its line though. It still thinks it's legal, it still thinks that it's in the public interest, and they're continuing to thrash it out. But that flight is due at the moment to leave on Tuesday.